then we have a second reading on, Petra Realty's property there on Highway 78 for a variance. Mr. Davis, you want to give us an update on that?
Sure. This case is one that goes back into the dark depths of history. The original case was RZ 0706 in 2006. The property was purchased, but as you know, we have overlay districts and other things that once someone buys something like that, they have to bring it up to current code. The property owner was given several years to bring this up to code. It has not happened so far. He came back this year telling us he would not be able to get it up to code in time and asked what our recommendation would be. We recommended that he come back and ask for an extension of the conditions that were granted in the 07 ordinance. And he came back with a request, which in your book you'll see the request is outlined, highlighted in yellow, those areas that he wanted complete condition removal of, which dealt with the property being developed in general accordance with his submitted site plan. The second one was a required 50-foot buffer along the rear property to be reduced to 20 feet. He wanted this completely removed. And the property utilizing sanitary sewer system to be removed, because he's the only property down there that's in a redevelopment mode right now, and the sewer is about 400 feet away. It would be quite expensive for him to do that. In looking at everything that came before the Planning Commission, the commission agreed that he could have some variances changed with a few pretty, I think, strong conditions. Basically, they recommended approval if we did the following things. His parking lot, sidewalk, and landscaping would be completed by the 31st of December this year, developed in accordance with the state and county regulations, and he would submit his plans to the department for review. That the owner of the property would provide from GDOT approval of his current ingress and egress driveway. The Planning Commission agreed then that all the street lights, pedestrian sidewalk lights, and pedestrian amenities required by the corridor overlay district would be installed when adjacent properties were redeveloped or the block was redeveloped. That's again one of these things where he controls 100 feet of a 700-foot long block, and to just do that piece in the middle would be a little bit difficult.
Let me interrupt you, please. You're talking about condition number 3 under the Planning Commission recommendation?
Yes.
That was done on 7/23/2013?
Yes.
And just a while ago, you said that completing a sidewalk, I couldn't hear couldn't remember everything you said.
The sidewalk and the landscaping would be completed. The sidewalk only. That overlay district includes pedestrian benches, trash receptacles, low-level lighting, high-level street lamps, the street trees. There's a bunch of things in it beyond this, the sidewalk. But we want the sidewalk completed because we'd like to have the sidewalks along 78 as complete as possible.
What can you do this segment of sidewalk independent of the?
That's what it says. That's what we're,
That's what you're saying?
right.
Oh, because it doesn't say it in this one.
Yes, it does.
It's saying that all street, it says here, pedestrian sidewalk, lights, pedestrian amenities required by the corridor overlay district shall be installed when either of the adjacent
Yeah.
properties are developed. What
The
if
way,
they are?
when it said sidewalk, it's pedestrian lights. They're on the sidewalk, with sidewalks in parentheses to indicate location of the lights. The sidewalk is gonna be put in.
Fantastic, thank you.
Adding to the confusion. The sewer connection, we're backing that off till the block itself is redeveloped, and then the sewer can be extended along there. Or if several properties around them are redeveloped. The applicant, he currently has a septic system, and we want a permit approval from the Office of Gwinnett County's septic tank group of health to indicate that A, that the system is functional, and B, what the load would be. Because the building, as an office building, can hold 22 people. But I don't know
residence,
that
it
he
had how many
has,
bedrooms?
it had 3 bedrooms, so he's got 450 feet of line that was put in sometime back in the dark
Yeah.
past. So we need a certificate from the county health department showing that the septic system is good for X number of people. It'll be a little higher than you would get if people were living there because it's not a full-use bathroom
Oh,
where
sure.
you're showering and everything.
Right.
But it would still be, it wouldn't be 22 people.
Right.
Uh, We are also going to go through and conditions that were numbered 1 through 6 and numbers 8 through 9 from the 2007 Mayor and Council approved conditions will remain in force and in full effect. And if the property ownership changes, the conditions become null and void, and Mayor and Council approved conditions of R706 remain in full force and effect.
John, I received an email on this property stating that the owner is currently in violation, has a violation for a tree ordinance violation.
Yes, sir, in your package, there were 2 trees in the yard, one that we know of for sure. I will show you a picture of it here in just a second.
Is a picture in the package?
The picture is in the package. This is what was in the front yard.
Okay. It be gone?
This is what is in the front yard.
Okay. And can you explain to me exactly what the violation is and the repercussions of it?
The tree that was cut down was not a specimen tree, but it would be classed as a special tree. It was like an 18 or 20 inch, well-formed, nice oak tree. There was a site plan done for the development of the lot, and it specifically saved that tree and another tree in the rear yard. So far, the only landscaping improvements that have been done is cutting down the 2 large oak trees.
Okay, and what is the city's position on those violations?
Those violations would have, the trees would have to be replaced in an inch per inch. The caliper units would have to be replaced or paid for.
And what are we talking, obviously, he's not gonna replace it, what are we talking about as far as fines?
I'd have to go do the math on what an 18-inch tree is worth, but
Okay.
it's like $1,000 per tree unit.
Mhm.
It's a big number.
Okay, well, I mean, and there was no permit or anything issued for him doing that, it's just something that.
No, sir, there's a letter in the packet that we found as the record has gone through. This has been ongoing for forever.
Mhm.
And there's one in there from my predecessor who addresses the fact that, excuse me, there were trees in your yard and now they're gone. We have an issue,
Mhm.
but I can't find out whether they ever did any follow-up on it.
Okay. Well, would we be out of line, and I'm asking, I guess, the city attorney, would we be out of line stating to this particular property owner that before we even consider any variances, that tree problem be rectified for the city's satisfaction?
Well, the way this was handled by my predecessor, Mr. Betty, is his letter says, and I quote, "The zoning of the subject property is OP, and according to the zoning ordinance, any removal of trees requires approval by the city arborist. Furthermore, the removed trees must be recompensed at a rate as described in Article 21, Section 21.7, Special and Specimen Trees. Recompensement of these trees shall be required as part of any development processes that are associated with this property." So with that letter, the city basically said, you will recompense for the trees, either by planting more trees or paying for them when the development permits.
Okay, we don't have those, any of the conditions that come afforded to us by the planning and zoning, correct? That's not one of the conditions, is it? Or
It is not, but it's floating right alongside the conditions.
Already an existing.
It's an existing condition.
Yeah, but it's
that would
not
keep-
listed there, and if we don't have it listed there, that means that he may not, he's gonna say, well, you didn't list it either.
We can add that one more condition to this list and make it a list of
And
8
can we make
conditions.
can we make all the other conditions, or the approval of this? In other words, can we table this until that's taken care of? I mean, this has gone on now, it's been ignored. I see no reason to allow more variances when he's not lived up to the one that he's been well notified of.
You can do that.
otherwise there's really no consequences. I didn't do it before, so I'm not gonna do it again.
Well, the consequences come about on December the 31st, when, if it isn't done, there will be no business license renewed. That's about as good a consequence as I've got right
It
now.
is, it is. But then, and under that, maybe we just need to make that the number one condition, is that ongoing violation of our tree ordinance must be rectified before any of the other conditions are even considered.
Well, the way the letter is written, this comes with approval of any development plans for the site. And there's gonna have to be some development plans for sidewalks to be built and driveways to be fixed and parking areas to be provided. We believe he is currently negotiating with his next door neighbor because they had, when he owned both houses, he had a plan approved by GDOT and the city to build a combined entranceway and parking lot for both houses. And then he lost one of the houses in a foreclosure, so that went away. The person who had bought the house has apparently talked with him about them going together to do the GDOT approved entryway.
So that's something he'll say he already had approval on, and won't have to get this tree thing done.
Yes,
because
he
he already
will.
had.
No, he will have to do this.
He will have
Because
to.
the tree cutting came after the approval of those documents.
I just wanna make, again, someone who's blatant, disobeyed, or not disobeyed, but ignored the notification and the law. I mean, I think they need to be, that needs to be rectified before we go out and granting them more variances and allowing them to do
Well,
more things.
You just want clear language.
If you read
Yes, I
this
do.
very clearly,
Well, I want him to understand it very clearly, I guess.
we haven't removed any condition from him, and the ones that we've had the biggest problems with must be done by December 31st.
Okay, well, I think we need to add as the number one condition before any of this other stuff is even approved, is that has to be.
Well, that's, and then I would suggest y'all make that motion.
Okay.
And make it part of your approval or whatever you wish to do.
Mr. Davis. We then have second reading on the speed zone ordinance. This is just updating our speed zones to be in compliance with state certifications.
State required that be done, there's no changes to it.
Anybody have any questions for the chief on that? We then have under new business, the Maride settlement agreement has been withdrawn. We then have Lawrenceville's use of the mobile stage, Mr. Sanders.
We have worked through that with the city of Lawrenceville. We now have the plan put in place to transport, open, go back that evening, close it, and bring the stage back. They will pay for the costs of the two personnel directly, and the agreement is ready to adopt.
Any questions? The field chemical contract?
There's another, am I wrong, isn't the South, or the Snellville Baptist Church under that same article? Is that?
No,
it's
it's
not.
separate.
Sorry.
It's separate.
No, looking for sheet, apologize.
The field chemical contract, if you remember, we went out, we only received one bid. We went out and rebid the application, and we received 5. True Green was by far the lowest. They have been with us and have done the job for the last several years. Their overall bid of $12,936 is the one we would recommend be accepted.
Why is their line so much cheaper? They just moving things
I don't know
around?
if it's volume. I
Doesn't seem
don't
like
know how
real
they
apples
can
to apples on the line.
be. What's that?
Doesn't seem like real apples to apples on the line because of it's a tremendous difference in cost between the other.
It is, and I wish I could tell you that, but I made sure that it is the same amount, same quantities, and I just, maybe they have a different way of bidding. I'm really not sure, but the overall contract's significantly cheaper.
Stage with Snellville First Baptist, Mr. Sanders?
Excuse me?
Snellville First Baptist stage?
Snellville First Baptist, I think they've probably been in touch with
Yes.
Mr. Witts
Mhm.
and some other folks. They have I believe this Wednesday, they have a rally for their preschool enrollment. They're gonna have some entertainment, and they have requested to use our stage. They are a nonprofit organization. We will be able to move it and retrieve it in regular business hours. There really won't be a direct cost to us.
And a member of the council, either Mr. Howard, Mr. Mayor, or myself will be there to open the stage and then secure it upon its, there'll be no expense to the city. And I'm asking that we do that in reciprocation for all the times that we use their parking lot, putting it green, and I think this is just goodwill between us and
We'll be using it again next Saturday.
Exactly right, and we've used it extensively probably next Saturday. But I'm just making sure that no one on the council has any objections to that. But basically, it's just a goodwill thing, and members of the council will take care of any expense outside of the normal expense.
In addition to that, they, as you know, I'm a member of that church, so we're talking about it last Sunday. They said, if you don't mind, if you don't need it, we can keep the parking lot there if you are not only, eager to have it, so they're okay with it being stored there.
Well, we need the backup side.
I understand, so they said that they can hold it so the space is available, so they're not on any rush.
My conversation with Mr. Williams, that when we get it, we would set it there for him on Tuesday, Wednesday, we would remove it by Thursday, no later.
Repairs to the lake.
We are having more than a few issues with the wall at Briscoe Park Lake. We really need some engineering work done, some evaluation and plans drawn up for the repair. We have an existing professional services agreement with HDR. Everything that I've had to do with them, they've done very well, very professionally. We asked them to put together a proposal to do the evaluation, and put together a set of plans for the repair of the lake wall where they felt like it was most needed. And they have submitted a request, a proposal for $13,500, which I think is an excellent price for the scope of work. And I'm recommending that we approve them, start them working on it.
Any questions? And then surplus on the generator.
We have, with the installation of the new generator here, we have a nice piece of equipment at the old police center, old police department, that we can definitely put on the market and bring some income in, but the prerequisite for that is for the mayor and council to act and surplus the property. And then we'll bring the information back to you when we market it.
Any questions? Then on to our work session agenda. Do we have any correspondence for you? Bob, you have any reports?
Just reporting back on, I think later in the discussion there is the amendment to the charter. We did report back that. I think you'd ask us for a price on a general grantee search. And we did, we have a title examiner that's independent law firm that we asked to take a look at, and he's really defining what he would do, what he wouldn't do, so it should be ready for the next meeting.
Snellville Snellville horseback is mobile stage. Anything else to say on that?
No.
Oak Road, Passive Park. Mr. Sanders.
This came up at the last meeting. Lisa and I met with the original designers of the first plan. I think that was probably done for the 2009 SPLOST. It also is HDR engineering. We went out and reviewed the site and basically talked about what it would take to put an RFP together, and really what Robbie has come up with here. It doesn't matter if this is the only step or the first step of 10. This is a necessity. This has to be done. And basically, it covers 3 categories in a scope of work. The first is inside the white line, basically the property outline. We're asking to receive bids on removing invasive species. When I went out there in the winter, it looked like an open piece of property that we could pretty much move in there and develop pretty quickly. When I went back during growing season, there was no way. This is just removal of the low invasive species is something that is just a foundational piece of work so you can develop the property. In the red there, you can see the second is basically going in and removing everything that is less than 24 inches DBH. That's diameter breast high. Pretty standard term in the lumber pulpwood business. And basically what it would do for the front of the property, and a lot of it already is cleared out, but it would clear the rest of it out. So you would have an open space to work with when people pull in and are just unloading, loading, and it clears out a pretty large section, I think about 1.5 acres. The other, of course, is the future nature trail, where we would go in, the successful bidder would go in, clean a 10-foot wide, almost 1,000-foot long future nature trail corridor, which is the manila or the pinkish looking dotted line there. So if when the RFP goes out, these are the 3 foundational responses that we'd be asking for to clear the property out and see what we've got. I don't know if that's what you were looking for.
That's exactly what I was looking for.
That's what we came up with.
That's exactly what I was looking for. And I had asked that this be put not only in the work agenda, but also on the public hearing agenda, so we could set a dollar amount for the RFP, so we'd have an idea of what we were working with. And I'd still like to do that. I'd still like to move that up to the, add it to the open meeting, or to the public hearing, and set a figure of $150,000.
So as we go through this almost every meeting, you can't add things to the published agenda unless it's an emergency.
Well, I found out that I can in this case because I discussed it at the last meeting, and it's also on the work agenda. So it knows that it is on the
Under
agenda.
the Georgia open records request.
I inquired about that. I am not in violation. So we are going to move ahead to the open records, or to the public hearing, and add it to the new business.
Excuse me, I believe I'm still the chair of this meeting, and so that will be improper at that point in time. It's
Okay.
not on the published agenda, and it is not an emergency. You can put it on the next council agenda.
What I'll do is I'll question the decision of the chair and have a vote at that point. Thank you.
You can't, you can't, we'll deal with it when we deal with it. Use of agreement in case of disaster.
This is a piece of the COOP, the Continuity of Operations Plan for the city. And the short of it is, if something happens to City Hall, we have to be able to be up and running in another facility within, I would like to see within 12 hours. And so we are working on this, and the verbiage changed a little bit, so I will give it to Mr. Sanders to explain a little bit more, or to the city attorney.
It really is something that there are 2, as much progress as we've made on the COOP to this point, there are 2 big items left. One has to do with off-site data storage, and the other has to do with the ability to set up operations in a remote location should something happen here. In conversations with the city of Lawrenceville, we feel like there can be a reciprocal agreement put in place where, once we come up with the exact language, making sure that there are no costs to our partner for our operation, I feel like we can put that in place. This is something that hasn't been done before, one more time. I was telling Councilwoman Kraus earlier, I have checked with the most progressive governments in the country that I know of, and there's not a template to go by. We're kind of breaking new ground here. So I want to provide the right type of language for our friends to be comfortable with. We need to be comfortable in return, so it's just taking a little bit of time. But those are the last, really the last two big pieces that we need to address. That's just an update, yes.
And then, amend the wording of section 2.19 of the charter. Mr. South.
This is actually Councilmember Kraus's recommendation. It goes to, it'd be charter change, so we have to agree on the language and then advertise it. And so the crux of it is to amend to allow email notification. And the way this is worded is it would be to the email address that is the approved address for communications with the city, which would be your city email address. So make that in addition to personal service and telephone contact to make email. And probably no case law on that, but Supreme Court now utilizes email notifications to attorneys in law pleadings and requires that. So I think we're in good state.
Does anybody have any input on this? This is on the work session for this reason.
No, if it's an accepted practice, it seems, and it's the 21st century, we should probably move in that direction.
Other questions or comments? We are complete. We'll reconvene